Good morning. I want to thank the grace of heaven, virtue of enlightening masters, mercy of transmitters, and confidence placed by all of you for the opportunity to learn to talk about our grand predecessor, Han. Just as lecture time mentioned, Friday was his birth anniversary. Do you know how old he would be?
In the hundreds.
100 something. 110, maybe? 120? 119.
Did you calculate?
118 to be accurate.
You see, 1900, right?
He was,
Oh,
1901. Yeah, the reason we talk about him is in China, we have the saying, when we drink water, we think of the source. Today, we have this wonderful environment and platform to learn about the Tao, to cultivate the Tao. It doesn't just come from nowhere. There were these people like our grand predecessor, and people like him who really soiled and toiled very hard, selflessly and tirelessly, so that we have this environment to cultivate the Tao. They really soiled hard to provide us such a wonderful shelter, such a wonderful cultivating community. So it's why whenever there are anniversaries of Buddhas or sages, we usually like to talk about them. It's also to show our gratitude and also to remind us how we should not just talk about them, but we should also emulate them in our conduct, in our thinking. Okay. Now, so today my topic is introduction to our grand predecessor Han. By this time, many of us already know that he's also known as the Whitewater Elder, and he was also conferred the title of the Whitewater Holy Sage, 白水圣地, by Lao Mu, our
Emperor.
Holy Emperor, by God. Okay, and
No, that's the highest level of, I think, Bodhisattva already.
yeah, in one of the poems, I think it was by also Holy Teacher. Holy Teachers refer to him as like, the rain or the sweet spring water during a drought. So nourishing, quenching the thirst, also dispel delusions and clear any confusions. Okay, and so he's also like pure water filling our world. This is from one of the songs, and we didn't have time to listen to the song today. Okay, and I think it's very most fitting that he should have such a title. In fact, he referred to himself as the Whitewater Elder because we know that he only drank water in his life, and that's why in the future, when we have to prepare the cups, the teas for Buddhas and saints, make sure that you only put just water, pure water, in his cup, not tea.
Which is in the small temple, the center statue, lower table. This is upper and lower table, so the lower table center. So his cup should be a pure water, besides God's cup.
Yeah, and he was known as he was conferred the title of the pure water holy emperor because we know from the Book of Virtue, and also this is a very traditional Chinese thinking of philosophy that water has much virtue, right? It quenches thirst, of course. That's a basic. It also can help purify whatever's dirty, filthy, right? But it still retains its own good quality. And water is also humble. It flows to the lower part. Water is also very soft and flexible. It's going to take the shape of whatever space it fills. Yeah, and so that's all we all have to learn to be, just like water. So in China we have the saying 上善若水, which means the
That's from 道德经.
yeah.
Chapter
Okay. 8.
8,
Yeah,
Up
it's
to
like,
7.
the 上善 means the utmost kindness is like water. Okay, just a little bit of a background why he's called white water holy emperor. Okay, here's a little bit of biography of him. His last name is Han, H-A-N, and his given name is En Rong. En actually means grace, and then Rong can mean prospering, thriving. He also has a courtesy name, Jie Qing. An alien name, it was called Yulin. Okay, this is the area that we often know of. Remember, we have a temple in California that's named in his honor, Yulin Temple. Okay. Really?
Is that you?
No.
Why you?
Oh, why you?
Not yun. Yeah, not yun.
Sorry.
It means
Okay, I take care of
No,
it
it
later.
is yu. It means rain.
Yeah, rain. Yeah. Okay, delete. Oh, I take care of it.
Birthday, same day as my mother's.
And he in his late years, he referred himself as the pure water elder, 白水老人. Okay, 白水 means white water, pure water. Okay, he was born in 1901, May 10th, and the lunar calendar month will be the 3rd and the 22nd date. And his birthplace was Panzhuang village, in Ninghe County of Hebei Province. He was born in a very turbulent time. We'll know later that at that time there was the invasion to China of the Eight Nation Alliance. China was a closed country before that, and the Eight Nation Alliance blasted open the Chinese door with cannons and bullets.
That was towards the end of the Manchu dynasty, right?
Manchurian.
Yeah.
Manchu?
那个清朝.
Okay.
That was towards the like the last 10, 20 years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. Okay. So, and he returned to heaven. I always say he attended Tao, passed away on February 25th, which is the 26th day of the first lunar month in 1995 at the age of 95. So he would have been 118 years old last Friday. And so posthumously, he was bestowed the title of Pure Water Holy Sage or Holy Emperor. Okay, and I like to add this to people that are very closely connected to him. One is his wife. He was married to Ma Xiaoxian. Ma is it means the horse, but it's usually also a common Chinese surname. Xiaoxian, Xiao is filial piety, Xian is first. So his wife's name is Ma Xiaoxian, and it means that filial comes first. In China, when I guess this is also in a lot of country, in a lot of culture. When we give names to our kids, we usually want to add a little bit of our expectation for the children, hoping that they would grow to be such a person with such virtue or character. And so, I guess that's her parents' expectation of her. And what happened was when our grand predecessor really abandoned family and business to be totally dedicated to Tao's propagation. He, like I said, he left behind his family. And then when, I think it was after the liberation of the China's mainland, and during the time when the Tao was considered anti-government, she was really tortured. So she was literally tortured to death. But because of her forbearance and her dignity upholding, the Tao's principle. She was also she was also known as. She probably also went back to the absolute heaven, and she had the title of the Bodhisattva of virtue and mercy, 贤慈菩萨. And one other person that's very close to him is transmitter Han Wannian. That's his son. He's also a very important person. We say a very important mover of the Tao's, growth and development in Taiwan. He was very instrumental in carrying on his father's vision, his father's aspiration, and also in helping the growth and expansion of the Tao. He was also here about in 2013 when we commemorated Grand Predecessors bringing Tao to North America for 30 years. Here are some of the timelines in Grand Predecessor's life. He was born in 1901, as I mentioned earlier. That was a very chaotic and very you can say a very tragic time for China's. And for China and its people, there was the invasion, the attack of the Eighth Nation Alliance, and the day after he was born, he had to take refuge. His mother had to take him and find refuge in even suburban area in his maternal grandparents' home. So he was still in Swaddle, and he had to flee his home. So he really saw a very chaotic and torn country, China, and also his fellow people in very deep suffering. So when he grew up, he aspired to develop business, commerce, and industry so as to revive the country and to relieve people from the suffering. That was also an aspiration shared by a lot of people who are very patriotic and who really care about people. But of course, we know later that Grand Predecessor Han, having that mission from heaven, he brought this patriotism into a higher, state. And then at the age of 26, he assumed the dual post of the GM and technical director of a textile dye factory in Tianjin. Okay, and he managed over 400 workers. When he was raised in his maternal grandparents' home, he was very well brought up. So he was very well read, and he had developed very good ability. So when he was 26, he was already managing over 400 people. But then because of his constant overwork and very big pressure, so he contracted TB, tuberculosis. It was, I think, at phase 3. So he went to many doctors, and the doctors have no better way cure. Thank you, James, for him. Okay, but I think this was meant to be, right? He met Dr. Sun Nanfang. Okay, he is a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, and he had later became his introducer to the Tao. So this doctor brought him to receive the Tao. So at the age of 37, he received the Tao. So this is something I took from a video. As you can see in the background, there was the war, the conflicts, and then there was him. That was, I believe this must be Sizhun, right? The 18th patriarch. Yeah. So he was like in a ceremony receiving the Tao. Okay, so age 37. And so the Dr. Sun told him that when you receive a Tao, then you'll be able to avoid some calamities. And so he went to the temple for some time, and at that time it didn't help him much. So he didn't go, afterwards. But then there was a very we say like a turn of the situation. I think he was in Tianjin, and then someone told him that they have a class which is called a 研究班. I don't know, a study class or a research. Well, anyway, it's something like a drama class, and it was the last day of the class. So this person told him that, why don't you go to the class? Maybe a holy teacher will be able to cure him. And so he went. And so at the end of the class, holy teacher channeled in. He said to all the class that you are very sincere, that you have been such good class members. So I'm going to help whoever needed help. And so he said, those who needed help, you go and get the food offerings from the altar. And it was winter time, so the dishes were very cold. But still, our grand predecessor seized the opportunity. He actually ate some of the cold dish. And guess what? Afterward, solely cured. He didn't even have to take any more medicine or went to any other doctors. So that was when he started having the faith in the Tao, in all the help by Buddhas and saints. And so he became very dedicated, and he also took a vow. He said if he could be actually cured, then he's going to leave behind his career and his family, and to be totally devoted to the propagation of the Tao and to helping other people also receive the Tao and learn about the Tao. And so he was very diligent. He put in a lot of efforts, and he was trained as a human talent. He was one of the talents, and I think he was the human talent, writing down the scriptures, like what we saw in our Dharma class when there was like the Zen writing. There's a person who's writing with that special writing instrument, and there's the person who was reading out, and our senior. Our grand predecessor was the one who's writing on a piece of paper. So, recording, on a piece of paper. And he has enunciated so many scriptures by Buddhas and saints. So, and then there were a lot of things that happened, at that time. He was very devoted, and he wanted to spread out to different parts of China. But then there was, at that time, close to 1948, there was the division between the two governments, the Kuomintang by Chiang Kai-shek, and the Chinese Communist Party by Mao Zedong. So there was already that division, and so our 18th matriarch instructed him that Tao should be brought to Taiwan. So there were some seniors or some predecessors who was then dispatched to kind of chart the course. But then he himself, in 1948, July the 8th, he led a group of very talented Tao kings to Taiwan. Oh, I forgot. So in 1941, he was also he received the mandate to act as the transmitting master, and his most called Tao activities are in Tianjin. Okay. So there were some difficult times. Later on, we'll talk about that. Like in the 1960s, when they first went to Taiwan, there was so much hardship that they had to endure. But then in 1970s, because of the leadership from people like him, our grand predecessor, there are also grand predecessors from other lines. We have 12 lines, right? About 12 lines. Yeah, this is one. Fa Yi Far East, one of the lines. So because of their concerted efforts and because of their faith, their sincere faith in the Tao, so they were able to start bringing Tao to other country. And for our Far East, the groups under our grand predecessor, the overseas expansion started in the 1970s. So, for example, 1978, I think he first went to Japan to propagate the Tao, and then in 1978 he also pioneered Tao in Southeast Asia. For example, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, and I think there's a few other Southeast Asian countries. And then in 1980 he presided over the dedication of first temple in Japan, and I think it was the first time that they had the communion with God in Japan. In 1982, he made 2 trips to the USA, bringing the Tao to America. I wonder if our two lecturer Jeans had the opportunity to get a very first-hand contact.
Yeah.
At that time, I was not really interested in Tao. I was like a wild guy. No, I'm kidding. I was ignorant.
How about?
I just graduated from college, started working, and it's like, to me that was like too far down the road for me. so it's but,
How about Transmitter Ray? I thought there was a picture of him with him and
he was more
in Little Rock, right? In
Little Rock. No.
In Tongda. Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, in Tongda.
Do you have any? So you were
I was
also
there,
in
I
his
was there.
company, right?
Second
Well,
time.
I'm
Not
always
first.
yeah.
First time I went to Star City.
Yeah, no, first time I didn't receive the Tao yet.
Oh, Little Star, yeah. Oh. So you did meet him in person?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nobody had.
But I'm in the background. I'm kind of shy,
Well, you.
so I was afraid to speak out.
Yeah.
Everybody was taking personal pictures with him.
Yeah, that's how I felt for Senior Transmitter Trey when he was here. He was so very solemn and very dignified.
That's how he was.
Yeah, I guess it's just like how you feel for
Yeah.
grand predecessor.
Yeah.
And so, but then in 1992, right, 10 years later, he made his 3rd trip to the USA. At that time, that was already thriving
So he made
in the
3
USA.
trips, right?
3
I
trips
thought I
in
saw
his
him
lifetime.
twice, yeah.
Yeah, 3.
Oh, okay.
And then I did see him
3
twice.
times, yeah.
And then the last one's 10 years apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see him or you were all in California?
No, you never. I thought you ever did.
Okay, and so in addition to his efforts in expanding the Tao, propagating the Tao in uncharted territory, and bringing them to all these new lands, he also did a lot to contribute to the society in Taiwan, because he thinks Tao is really in our daily life. It has to be manifested in the daily life, and it has to show. It has to the benefit and the preciousness of the Tao has to be what is that word? Remarkable, and have to be conspicuous. What is that word? Visible. Conspicuous to the people. So he really put a lot of efforts into contributing to the society, transforming people's spirituality. So in 1979, he established one of the orphanage, taking in all the orphans, which is called 信义. 信 means faith or trust. 义 means righteousness. And in 1981, he bought the land in Puli, which is the site of Tianyuan Temple. Puli is also the Rongyuan, right? Is it the site for Rongyuan? Fusan, right? And also,
Different place.
yeah.
Puli is a different place. Yeah. Fusan is Fusan is close to Taichung.
Taichung.
Puli is closer to the center of Taiwan, which is more inner, how can I say, close to
Inner land.
central Taiwan. It's in the hills, the mountains.
Okay, mountainous.
Yeah, but it's a nice feng shui, good place.
Oh.
Because the back is a mountain, of the monastery, it's a monastery, and then the front is like a lake, right? There's a lake.
It's close to the Sun Lake.
Yeah, it's in the
Oh,
mountains.
Sun Moon Lake.
No, it's in the mountain. That's right.
It's close to
Central, so it's in central Taiwan, very close to central Taiwan. Anybody visited there? It's a nice place.
Yeah,
It's pretty
I've
big.
been
We have pictures on the hallway.
I went there once.
It's big. It's pretty big. They have a
Fushan, right?
library,
You're talking about
No,
Fushan?
no, truly.
No,
Puli.
Fuli. Fusan is a little bit smaller.
I think, yeah.
Fuli's small. I mean, Fusan is small. Fusan is small.
Yeah, in 2017, when I brought my mom to receive the Dao in Tainan Temple, Tongyi Temple, and also attended Dharma class, we went back to what is that? Sun Moon Lake.
Sun Moon Lake, yeah.
We drove past the Puli, but didn't have time to visit the place. Yeah. So because he also set up the what we call the bright home of life and benevolence, 叫做光明仁爱之家. This is for the seniors. Yeah. So he really.
Yeah, that's it.
That's at Puli. Yeah.
Puli.
天元
天元
佛院
佛院.
Yeah, it's a nursing
It's just like a
Nursing home.
nursing home, yeah. For the retirees or something.
Yeah, so in these endeavors, he really realized the vision of the great world of harmony to treat all children as our own, and also to take care of all the seniors, the elders as our own parents. Yeah, and so because of his all his efforts to improve the society, to harmonize the society, and of course it's not just our grand predecessors' effort. Not yet. Okay, and of course the efforts by other predecessors from other lines of the Tao. So Yiquan Tao, the heavenly Tao, was recognized by Taiwan authorities as a legitimate practice. I'm not sure if that's the right word, practice. It's not religion, so okay. And so also I saw some videos and I saw that presidents of Taiwan, and also what do you call it, 立法院, right? Like the leaders in the legislature, they all give Yiquan Tao a lot of ovations, accolades for their contribution in promoting and carry on the cultural, traditional cultural heritage, and also in stabilizing, in transforming and harmonizing the society. I remember President Ma. 是马吗?
previous
Yeah, yeah.
Taiwan.
一下子忘了叫马英九, right? Yeah, he said. So we have given the predecessors and all the Tao Kings of the Yiquan Tao, tough times. But in spite of all this hardship and difficulties they had to face, they were so steadfast. They never give up. So he said that this is a very long overdue apology. But then I think it's probably grand predecessor son said, although it came late, but they still received this apology with gratitude. So it was really their efforts. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the legacy of our grand predecessor. So he's the one who really lived out the aims or the goals of the Tao. Do we remember the goals of the Tao? I don't know if I have time to. Okay, no. I think it was close. Yeah, but lecture Jean just talked about the goals of the Tao 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It starts with respecting the heaven and Buddha and the Tao, and to caring about people around us, and how we should contribute to the proper growth of a society, of a country. Yeah. And he also carried out the visions of the world of great harmony, by he always encouraged his Dawkins and his followers to bear always the 5 graces in mind. Do you remember? I would say the 5 gratitudes. Does anyone know the 5 gratitudes? Tian, heaven, earth, and then the ruler or the president or the government, and then our own parents, and then the master, enlightened masters. Now, these are the 5 major categories, but really, our gratitude is for everyone. It's not just, but just as Confucius said, there's always a teacher who can help, who we can learn from. When we are in a company of 3, there are always things that we can learn from others. Although we might be stronger than them in certain ways, but we still can learn from from people around us. So the aim of the Tao is like the essence, or we say the tea, right? And the word of great harmony is the actual application of this tea, the goals of the Tao. The great word of great harmony is that this is from the Book of Rites. And Confucius kind of set it aside as just one of the very short classic or a sutra, and he says that we have to treat other people's parents as our own, other children as our own too, and make sure that the young or the adult have proper employment, and then when these old people are old, they will be properly taken care of, and then there will be so much there will be such trustworthiness in this society. So you don't have to lock the door when you leave home. You can leave your door wide open, and if there are treasures on the road, people will not pick up and just pocket it, possess as their own. This is really a very ideal world. But he, grand predecessor and many predecessors like him, they feel with their efforts and with efforts of coming generations, this is not possible. It's just a matter of time. And one of the things that is very remarkable of him is a lot of times we say, when we cultivate very well this lifetime, then we become perfectly enlightened, then we can really enjoy eternal heavenly bliss, right? But he is not like that. He has that 无始无终的 vow, okay? No beginning, no end vow, which means that he wants to come back again and again until all sentient beings can return to the absolute heaven.
That's like the 4 great vows.
Right. It isn't that the vows of Siddhigarbha Buddha, right? 地藏古佛. But he's saying the underworld. But his vow, our grand predecessor's vow, is that all sentient beings go back to the absolute heaven, and then otherwise he will come back again and again.
Until every sentient being is saved. That's like almost. Yeah. Well, all the bodhisattvas say that. So that's part of like 4 great vows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying, if you're enlightened, the 4 great vows is natural. It's a natural extension. You know that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to give a reason. It just so makes sense because it's coming from your Buddha nature. Okay?
Yeah.
So you don't have to rationalize.
Yeah, and also he's also very remarkable for his selfless and tireless dedication. When they just brought Tao to Taiwan, the time was very unfavorable. There was first the language barrier. Also, there's also the difference in the climate. It's very different it was very humid in Taiwan. There was many mosquitoes and insects and things like that. And at that time, it was in the late 1940s. Taiwan currency was also going through the re-evaluation. At that time, 40,000 of the old Taiwan dollar was worth only 1 new Taiwan dollars. Yeah, so there was also the economic plight at the time. And there was also the political instability. There's also the curfew that was being implemented. And so many times when they had some assembly, then they would be arrested by the authorities, the police, went through a lot of investigation. We already knew from, stories of predecessor Liu, how that, they had to have been tortured. Yeah. But even when they have such difficulty, they never lose. They never.
Are you gonna?
I don't know.
Did you get someone to substitute for you?
Yeah. I did.
Oh, okay,
I
that's
told
fine.
Sister Chen
Okay.
that I probably. Okay. Yeah. So actually they did not do this for their own selfish reason. It's all to because I'm going to share later. In one of our grand predecessors' quote is that our mission in this war is to, just like the goals of Tao, to bring all the sentient beings back to the absolute heaven. That's 先天的. That's something that's like in our inherent mission in this lifetime. We didn't just come to this world to live just an ordinary life. We have a mission to fulfill, and the other post-heaven mission is that we have to help transform this world into a paradise. Okay, yeah, and so in our grand predecessor's conduct and everything, he really manifests the Tao, in his benevolence, in his dignified manners, in his genuine care for his followers, for Tao members. There was a time. Remember that a lot of predecessors had been arrested and thrown in jail. And there was a time, in order to help protect and help the release of these predecessors, grand predecessor, turned in himself to the police. And so he was also in prison, in jail 2 times. But finally, they could not find any evidence to prosecute them. So he was released. But it just showed how he was protected of his the Tao kings. And we also know that he has such loyalty to the Tao and to predecessors. Should be, our 18th patriarch and our 18th matriarch. When our 18th matriarch went to Taiwan, she had to stay in seclusion, and so people, because that's to protect the Tao, because she is a very instrumental person in oversee the propagation and the development of the Tao, and so she had to be well protected. But then people were having some false accusation of our grand predecessor, like he's kind of captivating him for his own purpose. But he kind of just discharged all this regards because he knew he was doing the right thing. Also, he's very well known for his thriftiness. Okay, I read stories that when he used paper, he's going to use up every margin in this paper. He likes calligraphy. So on the piece of paper, he would first write the big calligraphies. Practice the calligraphy, and after there's no big space, then he will start writing the small calligraphy. So he has to fill up any piece of paper, as a what you call draft paper, and before he would throw it away. And again, there's a story about him, the cucumber skin. Okay, usually we would peel the cucumber and throw the skin away. And so there was time when one of the lecturers, remember Fan Shengji his lecture, they were peeling the cucumbers and also picking vegetables, and then they threw a lot of the skin and also leaves of the vegetable away. Grand Predecessor didn't say anything, but then in that evening, they heard some kind of noises from his dwelling, right? And so one of the Dawkins went up to see what's happening, and they saw him slapping his own face because his Dawkins were not very wasting people, wasting things, and Transmitter Gene always talk about how he saved the water after he he washed his face. He would save the water. He could use them for 3 other purposes. To what?
Wash the clothes.
Wash the clothes.
To water the plants.
Yes.
That's 3. One more.
Hmm?
To flush the toilet.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, there's so many examples, and we cannot just talk about every story here. And then there was a time when our grand predecessor came to visit, I think it's Tongde, right, in China, in New Jersey.
No, Tongde is here in Flushing.
Okay, and
Tongren is in Jersey.
Oh,
It's his-
okay. And at that time, we could still eat eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so because he came all the way from Taiwan to here, so our senior transmitter Jane, he cooks up a lot of tea eggs. Do you know tea eggs?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
spiced eggs,
Yeah.
It's boiled, hard-boiled eggs, and put them in some kind of
Tea,
sauce, tea, marinated. Yeah,
Soak it for how long?
depends on.
Weeks or months?
Yeah, so this is like what senior transmitter Gene thought that's going to give him some kind of a nutrition, and it's a special delicatessen delicacies. Okay, but grand predecessor refused to eat them because he felt that's a luxury. And whenever sometimes people offer him some special dish, he would always find out or check that everyone is eating the same. Then he will eat it. Otherwise, he always refused to eat them. Okay. And then his benevolence, as I mentioned earlier, he turned in himself to police in order to save other Dawkins. And I also heard from one of the transmitters that whenever they were Dharma class, he would always visit the kitchen often, making sure that the chefs were not too tired, because they were very important people in a Dharma class, and they are the most hardworking people. You can also say probably the most people, they are the most tired people, and so he makes sure that he give them a lot of concerns and care or love. Yeah. So he really cares about people in very detailed and very minute ways. Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. Sometimes if people did not conduct well, he would give them some kind of advice or maybe some criticism. But knowing that how that would feel, then at mealtime he would sit next to that person and serve him dishes, to kind of help help them make feel better. Okay, and also the bravery and perseverance. Okay, we talk about that they had encountered such difficulties and trials, but they never give up because. So this is also another evidence that 真道真考. If it's true doubt, then there will be true trials and tribulations. And as Lecturer Tai mentioned in his lecture, how to overcome in trials and tribulations in the dark cultivation. Without tribulation, we never know where we are, and we never know how firm or how resolute we are in this endeavor. And also, he's also always very dignified in mind, speech, and conduct. They call him as like a modern day Confucius, and he really personified Confucianism. So in him, we can see the 5 constant virtues. So in a distance, there's this expression from the analects that's can very good depict him, very well depict him. It's 望之俨然，及之也温. It means when we look at him in a distance, he's a very respectable, very dignified person. But then when you get close to him, he's just like a father, caring about us. Wen means very mild, mellow. Okay, so this is really we all have to be. Okay, but he sometimes he would be also critical of people's conduct. Like sometimes some ladies would laugh out very loud in the temple, which is very inappropriate. Then he would also scold them or give them some advice.
The screen is black. The screen is black.
Oh, what should I do? Mouse? No?
You have to move the mouse, right? You went to sleep mode or something? No?
I don't know.
This is
Thank
showing
you.
that's-
It's how long have they been black?
Just 2
Maybe
seconds.
just
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, and then the filial piety. He's a person who really fulfill filial piety in a very in a grand level. He knew how his mother went through, deliver him to this world, and caring, raising him when he was young. So whenever it was his birthday, Dawkins wanted to help him celebrate his birthday, but he always declined their kindness. And on that day, he would always close himself, or shut him, isolated. Yeah. Okay, stay in his room, just reflecting on his mother. And he also write words and letters, expressing such gratitude for the motherhood, the grace of the motherhood. And he not only did he pay filial piety to his own biological parents, he also was very respectful. He was also very he followed in the footsteps of our patriarch, our matriarch. So we just like we say, our holy teacher is like our spiritual parent, right? Yeah.